But with the death of Tiny McHugh and the theft of the fast, game star dancer, that hope seemed all but gone. Grimly, Fletcher set his jaw. No, it was not gone. He would take time to bury Tiny decent, then get the horse back, or die in the trying. His daughter Virginia, with her blonde hair and her mother's laughing green eyes, had no one to depend on but him. In the past, during his wild, violent, and ofttimes lawless years, Fletcher had never imagined that one day he would wrap his colts in a blanket and settle down to the life of a rancher with a woman and a child he adored. But now that it had happened, he could envision no other life. A thin column of smoke, straight as a string, rose from the chimney of the cabin as Fletcher rode up, and the smell of newly baked soda bread hung fragrant in the air. Savannah's paint stomped at flies in the corral beyond the house, and, nearby, the stream Fletcher's father had diverted from the creek 20 years before tumbled over a bed of sand and mossy pebbles, chuckling in amusement with a humor all its own. But as Fletcher reined up outside the cabin, he noted that the stream level was much lower, as was that of the creek. No rain had fallen since the end of March, and out on the range the buffalo grass was already showing patches of brown, frizzled by the long winds blowing hot and dry from the south. The cabin door swung open, and Savannah stepped outside, the sight of her, as it always did, taking Fletcher's breath away. His wife's auburn hair was loosely pulled back from her face, tied with a pink ribbon at the back of her neck, and her emerald eyes were bright with welcome. Savannah's teeth flashed white as she smiled, her mouth a little too wide for true beauty, tiny, arched lines showing at the corners of her lips. She wore a dress of pink gingham that matched the color of the bow in her hair and showed off the generous curves of her body. Despite the morning heat, Savannah looked as cool as the sprig of mint in an iced julep glass, but now her cheeks drained of color as she saw the double burden Fletcher's horse was carrying. "Tiny is dead," Fletcher said, replying to his wife's unspoken question. "They killed him and took Star Dancer." Savannah's face was stricken, understanding the consequences of the stolen horse as keenly as did her husband. Fletcher swung out of the saddle and, spurs chiming, stepped toward his wife. "I plan to bury Tiny decent and go after them." "How many?" Savannah asked. 6, maybe more. The woman nodded. "I'll sack you up some supplies." Fletcher had expected nothing less. He knew Savannah would not plead, would not beg him to let it go and have the law handle it. She accepted what had to be done. "How is Jenny?" Fletcher asked. Savannah's face changed, lit up by a smile. "She was up today for a couple of hours. She even helped mix the bread dough." The woman's eyes sought those of her husband, seeking an answer to a question she'd not yet asked. Now she asked it. "Jenny's getting stronger, Buck. Isn't she getting stronger all the time?" "The doctors at the Swiss clinic..." He hesitated, trying to frame his words. "They'll make Jenny better." He forced a smile. "You'll see." Savannah bit her lip. For a few moments she stood in silence, looking at her husband. She had hoped to hear comforting words that never came, hoped for a reassurance he could not bring himself to give. Finally, Savannah turned and glanced back toward the window of the cabin. "Buck, find Tiny a place further along the creek. I don't want Jenny to know." Tiny McHugh, with the cowboy's almost superstitious dread of tuberculosis, had seldom come near the cabin where Jenny lay. But the child had often watched him from the window as he worked, something of interest to see in a still, unchanging land. Fletcher had wanted to first go inside and see his daughter, but now he led his horse into the barn behind the cabin. He lit the fire in the forge and began to heat an iron rod, the rusty handle of an old branding iron. That done, he made a headboard of rough pine slats and took the red-hot iron and wrote on the board. Fletcher grabbed a shovel.